Well, we are finally to the point where I can show you our late spring garden. Harold and I have been working very, very hard in this garden, and I can hardly wait to show you how beautiful it is at this time of the year. It's a great place to work. It's a better place to relax. So, let's get started. I love stepping out of the back door into our garden because the first thing that greets me is, of course, the garden statue from the movie Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil. She's just a delight, and she was a gift for me from Harold a number of years ago. The peonies that are next to her are just a visual delight because they add such texture and such softness up against that statue. And beside the peonies, you will see a standard hydrangea that in the spring just has the green leaves. We cut it back every fall, and in August it is just teeming with the most beautiful shade of rosy and soft pink spikes of hydrangea blooms. The next bush that you're going to take a look at is actually called a snowball bush. Early in the spring, and that would have been in late April, this was covered with round balls of florals. They actually look like snowballs, hence it's called a snowball bush. And beneath that, you're going to see a number of hydrangeas. Now, this particular garden with the orange poppies used to be in entire shade because we had a wisteria vine growing up on an arbor. Now, the wisteria vine wasn't doing well, and we also thought that with our grandchildren, we really needed to add more umbrellas to the area where we're all seated when we're in the pool. So we took out the wisteria, and we'll have to see how all of the hydrangeas and the astilbes do in this area. And if they don't do well, I guess we'll move them to a shadier part of the garden later this summer. When our guests walk through the garden gate, these are the peonies that greet them. Oh, I just love them. They're a little different variety from the ones that you saw just a few seconds ago, but these ones are very, very much more hardy than the first group that you saw, and they're surrounded by columbine in this lovely soft lavender color. Beside that, you see some clematis growing. They haven't started to bloom yet. It's a tad early for them. And the tree that you're seeing right now is an eastern redbud. So eastern redbuds in the spring in Canada, they have the prettiest tiny pink flowers. There isn't a leaf on them. They're literally covered in pink flowers. And my goodness, I adore them. And what else I love about these is that the leaves are shaped like hearts. They're just so pretty, and they bring off the most glorious red color in the fall. In front of the eastern redbud, I have some hot pink fuchsia, actually, peonies, and they are so pretty as well. They look just lovely, and they are surrounded by daylilies, which aren't in bloom, and something called spiderwort. You'll see little tiny purple flowers, and those are just coming into bloom right now. We've got some hostas in this bed as well, and then, of course, I also have my red Japanese maple. It really is a glorious looking specimen. This one is low to the ground. Look at how beautiful and fine the leaves are on this beauty. And because I love peonies so much, we've added some more fuchsia peonies in here, and then take a look at the glorious white peonies. Just delightful, and I wish you could smell what I am smelling right now. It is just so fragrant in this garden with all of the beautiful peonies. As we walk through the arbor, you'll notice we have yet some more peonies, but look at these beauties. These actually are so fragrant, and to me they look like they belong in an English garden. I love them because of the rose-like effect, and they too smell absolutely glorious. One of the things I love best about this garden, because it's been growing for over 20 years, is we have added plants that we absolutely adore. I really love daylilies because in the summer, especially in the humidity, they just pop. You're not seeing them bloom right now, but to keep things always in bloom, we do add annuals. So that is a pot of million bells, and look at how pretty that looks up again. The peonies, they're just glorious. And then behind the peonies, and again, they're not in bloom right now, we have hydrangea. And we tend to go. This is a look at one side of our garden bed. This garden bed does need some work, and we'll spend some time on that this summer. But it's so pretty. And take a look at the glass ball. It's a little gazing ball that's in our garden. I just think it is so pretty. Just add that little pop of color, especially as some of my spring peonies start to die down, and my rhododendron at the back you can see. Garden. One of our favorite things to do in the summer is, of course, spend lots of time in the pool. Harold keeps the pool clean, and our grandchildren and our children absolutely love it, but I don't think any of them love it as much as I do. Our neighbors always hear our little ones playing happily in the pool, and it's just a glorious place to spend our hot summer days. On the other side of the pool, there's actually a shed that's full of pool toys for the little ones. I wanted them easily accessible, so last year I asked Harold to construct that little shed so that the kids could easily, grab pool noodles and other pool toys that they love to play with. So it all works out perfectly. Over on the large pool shed, we've added some window boxes, and we did do our annual planting both a little late and far too early this year. So this is an example of what we planted later, which is why you're not seeing very much growth. But unfortunately, we also planted some things a tad early, and that's what you're seeing here. And when we had frost about 2 weeks ago, Harold and I were out covering all kinds of things so that they wouldn't be destroyed. The joy of a Canadian spring. What you're seeing right now is the fountain that Harold and our youngest daughter brought home from a store. Look at how the birds love it. We have birds in that fountain all summer long. Harold changes the water so they have fresh water, and it's just glorious. And look at the irises in front of it. This gives us all sorts of wonderful sound. I know you're not hearing it right now because we did have to film this with the sound off. Too many neighbors were cutting their grass, and the municipality was cutting down trees during the filming of this. But at some point, I'll add a little gurgling piece so that you can hear what this sounds like. Isn't it glorious? And the angel at the back, she is just one of my favorite things in the garden. Once again, a better angel watching over all of us. Now, this part of the garden is something that actually took Harold and I a solid week of work. It had been overgrown by a ground cover that neither one of us liked, And we thought this is the year to begin to remove that ground cover. We had no idea what we were getting ourselves in for. At the end of the day, we ended up removing all of the perennials. The only thing that's left is the magnolia tree and the boxwoods, and there's also a rose of Sharon in there. We dug for a week straight, often on our hands and knees, to try to get every last bit of the rhizomes out, and then we heavily covered it with garden fabric and then with inches of mulch. So we won't be replanting this bed for at least a year, and I may leave it for 2 to make sure that all of the rhizomes have in fact died, because we do not want to go through that work again. But look at, we've got some really cute little statues in there, a couple of baskets of annuals, and of course a little birdhouse, because the little finches love the birdhouse in our garden. Unfortunately, when you remove all of the perennials, including we had a glorious clematis growing, you do get to see kind of the mess behind the potting shed or beside the potting shed, but that's okay. And you'll also see that I have a lot of wrought iron that I have to paint. Haven't had a chance to do that yet, but that is part of what the summer is for. It'll look beautiful when it's all finished. One of the things I love to plant for annuals, these are called black-eyed Susans. Now, normally they come in the color orange, but I love them in yellow. And these are just, they've only been planted for maybe a week and a half. Look how they're already just starting to spread. They will ultimately climb these climbers, and by the end of the summer, they will be spectacular. Nothing hurts them, no insects hurt them. If you want to plant something and you want it to climb, I highly recommend this particular annual. It can even take a little frost. Now going back to the fountain, you'll notice I have some delphinium growing. Such a pretty shade of purpley blue. And then this year we have added more of the knockout roses. I just love these knockout roses because they give us color all summer long. Now we do still have some work to do in this part of the garden because, we ran out of mulch, and unfortunately it appears lots of people want to add mulch to their garden, and we just can't find any quite yet. We'll be back out there shortly, looking once again. Please don't take a look at the state of the patio. It's coming, but we have a lot more work to be done. So stay tuned. Part 2 will be coming soon.